Hockey, yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. Of course, it's the Tuesday edition, which means it's not only Judd, it's not only AJ, it's also Jessi, Pierce, Bardown, Beauties, and also does an outstanding job covering the Wild for NHL.com. And guys, we have reached the Four Nations face-off break, which I think is like 13 days or something like that. We get a game on Wednesday. Canada plays on Wednesday. The U.S. plays, Finland on Thursday. And so we are at what would traditionally be the All-Star break. It's going to be longer, but the Wild, I just want to back up. So there's 26 games left, 56 games in, yet this is like the halfway break. So we're well past the 41 game mark. The Wild, though, third place in the Central, 70 points. It has certainly been, it was a season that started off well. There have been some ups and downs, but they've won 2 consecutive games now. They have played an extended period of time post-Christmas without Kirill Kaprizov. So, Jessi, I want to start with you. How surprised are you that we are sitting here today talking about a team that is in very good shape to make the playoffs, and in fact might be a top 3 team in the division, and has done so without Kirill Kaprizov, their star player?
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. I think you got to give them their flowers. You got to give John Hines some credit for that as well, because he's certainly turned this team into a much tougher team, a mentally tough team. I think that's one thing that he's constantly focused on, is that the guys have really been able to push through some of these really bad injuries, and, instances that the games that they shouldn't win or shouldn't even be a part of, and they're coming out ahead. It's certainly been interesting to see. The one question I still have, they're only 2 points ahead of the Colorado Avalanche for that top wild card. So it's certainly not smooth sailing from here on out. You got the Avs coming up in the second half. March is a doozy, as we've been talking about religiously, especially because the Wilds at home, still kind of an issue, and you are home every other night in March. So
Incredible.
I think I'm not completely set and comfortable, like, yep, they're in, this is all fine, because they've got to play hard. They've got to go out. They're going to get Jakub Lauko back potentially after the break, so that'll at least give them an extra forward. But until you get Kirill back, there's really no sitting pretty. You need everybody to compete hard every single night, because this is the time of year. It's the best time of year when everybody is really fighting for that playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that ETA for him coming back is what, either at the end of this month or probably like a week and a half-ish into March, right? Is that what the timetable is?
Yeah, there was no, I think they said a minimum of 4 weeks. So you're looking at a minimum of 4 weeks once that break. And actually, it's a good question too, because I don't know if it was a minimum from when he had surgery, probably. So it might even be a little bit longer into possibly beginning of April, which is fine.
It'll be
6 weeks.
Yeah, and this is also the team that said he was day-to-day, and then all of a sudden it's like, he's going to be out. He's still day-to-day, for all we know.
Take it with a grain of salt.
I did see him. I saw him last Thursday post-game. He was waiting for some of his Russian buddies on Carolina, and he, gave me his patented grill smile. He was just leaning against the wall. I didn't notice any crutches or anything like that.
Groin.
But I said, "How are you doing?" And he said, "Okay," with an audible
He said, "My groin
eye roll.
hurts."
He did. He thought
it was very uncomfortable at that point.
Yeah, it did. I walked away. I was like, all right,
You're like, "See you later, dude. Bye."
Good luck with that. But yeah.
So, and I would say, like, right now at this point, is it fair to say this season, despite like all the injuries and especially with the preseason expectations that I know I had for the team, so far it's been a pretty good success. Like, this has been a good season. They've overperformed a lot, and obviously it's kind of tapered off from that first month and a half or so, but you can't fault them for just how, with the regression, I think it's expected with how many injuries back to back to back. It seems like they're never getting, like, they get one guy back and another one goes out the door, and then they get that guy back, another one out the door, and then before that guy even comes back, another guy out the door. So it's, I would say they've been adapting and changing as much as we have maybe been ragging on certain aspects of players on the team. At this point, like this benchmark, it's been a very successful season for the Minnesota Wild, and they've put themselves in a really good position to not just get into the playoffs, but they're in a spot to have home ice advantage, which we don't know, like Jessi said, whether that's actually a good or bad thing at this point.
Right. My thing is this. So I'm with Jessi. I think John Hines has done a great job. Like, I think he deserves a ton of credit because quite frankly, when training camp started, I thought that this was not a playoff team. I mean, it's largely the same team that we saw a year ago that didn't make it. Now, that team underachieved. This team is not. But, when you've looked at Brodeen's hurt, Spurgeon's hurt, Kaprizov's hurt, like it's a rotating door. Eck is hurt. It's a lot of high profile, important players who have missed time. That being said, I'll set our next topic up like this. That being said, I'm going to stand firm with the fact that I don't think this team should do anything drastic at the March 7th deadline to try and make a run in their minds by sacrificing prospects. I think that this team's done a great job. I think that they deserve credit. Do I think that they're at a place where they're going to get into the playoffs and start to win rounds? I don't personally. Now that it's a weird sport. That can happen. But Jess, we saw a guy here on Saturday night look pretty good. Score a couple of goals. Good old Brock Nelson. Looked damn good, right? But that being said, I just don't think that this team is in a place yet to start to make that type of almost short term will give up prospects, especially top ones. And Brock's a guy that I think would bring back in the Islanders' mind a pretty hefty return. So I'm impressed. You're right. The home record is really weird. They can't just get, if they were good at home right now, they'd be in a top 2 spot easy. But I would advise against making any huge drastic move to go all in for this spring.
I don't think they're going to go all in, but I stand by knowing kind of Bill Guerin and his MO. He's not going to sit idle, especially when you have Philip Gustafsson, I think, performing back to the level that he was at the beginning of the year. I think he's looked really good, even in that Ottawa game where he faced 46 shots and allowed 6. Having a good goaltender, we know how deep that can get you into the playoffs. I just think Billy can't sit still. He's got kind of the fidgets, right? I think he wants to do something. Now, is that Brock Nelson? I don't necessarily believe that it's that big, but I also think Billy would be very smart about what he does. To your point, Judd, I think he's very happy with the prospects that the Minnesota Wild have. He likes a Liam Ogren. He likes who's Nadinov. He likes Danelia Yurov, who should be joining the team next year. I think you're looking at maybe some of the lower end guys, maybe move John Merrill very small. Maybe look at what Freddie.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think you would look at that respect, especially when you have David Jiricek too, that they went out and moved. That means that bottom defensive, whether that's Declan Chisholm, isn't that mix too. That's a possibility. So I don't know that necessarily he would look at getting rid of those top prospects, but I think Billy will look at maneuvering something some way. So I believe the prospects would be safe, but I think something might happen.
I feel like if anything, to get that fix that you're talking about, like a middle 6 guy, like a bottom 6 guy, just something, a little bit of depth here and there, gritty, maybe they can score. Because at the end of the day, with how long of an absence it's been, it's going to feel like you're almost making a massive blockbuster trade and getting a massive goal scorer in when Kirill Kaprizov comes back off IR. That is going to feel like you just made a big trade. And it's the best part there is he knows everybody in the room. He's your best player. And at that point, you hope that he is 100% healthy. We're assuming that it's going to be that 6-week timetable. So, fingers crossed, everything's good there. But I just still don't think that this is the season, despite the start and everything, the overperforming. This is the season you leverage stuff on, considering you're going to have all this money for July with free agency, potentially next year if you don't maybe hit that mark. And for a guy like Brock Nelson, if you really like him, maybe you can say, hey, we could just get a guy like that in free agency. He already has the Minnesota ties. You can pitch that to him. And there's a lot of options there because everybody knows it's the hashtag one of us that, we always have to, we have to have as many, we have to have as many people on this roster from Minnesota as possible. We can never not have Minnesotans on the Wild's roster. So I would be very hard pressed to find a good legitimate reason why they go and make a blockbuster deal, sending a prospect or another high-end pick that's this is to get us into the deep rounds of the playoffs. It doesn't feel like that's the year to make that move.
Okay, Jessi, go ahead. Your rant. Brock Besser, Brock Nelson.
I can't keep talking about Minnesota all the time. I love being from Minnesota. I love that we're the state of hockey. I think it's fantastic that there are so many.
It's made up.
Established.
We're not the state of hockey. A wild marketing executive in 2000 brilliantly tagged us with that. We are the state that actually lost a team to Dallas.
And you know what? It's not even for me. I feel bad for Brock Nelson. I feel bad for the guys that have to come in here and be like, yes, I know I'm from Minnesota. Yes, I had this great time here. Yes. Oh, I played at North Dakota though.
Right.
Like I just, you know, like
excited to be back.
Yes, exactly. Like I feel for those poor guys. I remember Zach Parise one year telling me, because I do stories for Minnesota hockey, which again, believe in community-based, believe in everything that
you don't have to preface this. Just go ahead.
I do believe in that.
This is not the Beauties. Go ahead, rip away.
Every single year, I would have to ask Zach Parise about outdoor hockey, and he would jokingly be like, "Can we just use what I said last year?" I was like, "Absolutely, my friend. I would love to do that. If you're fine with that, I will do that." But it's the same when all those guys come into town too. Like, hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you like? Of course they do. They're asked it every year. How could they not remember it? They were here.
What was it like growing up, going to watch the North Stars?
Who was your favorite Wild player? Like,
Parise
a thing for Nelson, I don't think. But
Parise was too young. I talked to him once about the Met Center being blown up, and like he had no recollection of that and stuff too. So like I didn't get that connection with Zach Parise. Well, he said I was talking to him about it, and he was like very unclear about it. He's probably 40. A kid. He's probably a kid and didn't care.
Yeah,
like at that time, I cared deeply. I was 23. My youth was being plunged to the ground. It was terrible for me. He didn't give a crap, which is fine. He shouldn't care that much.
Yes.
And I feel like it's not as blown out of proportion for other markets. Like when Austin Matthews' contract stuff was kind of up in the air. Oh, is he going to go back to the desert to his like? That was a fun rumor, but you knew that was never going to happen. When John Tavares signed with the Leafs, the massive deal, it's like, oh, he's got the bedspread and of course he was good. But like, it's to your point, Jessi. Nobody's like, hey, remember going to get Tim Hortons and then go and watch the Leafs
in Toronto?
Like
they might have. That's an insufferable market. Oh God, Toronto's terrible.
Well, if they do, I don't hear about it. Maybe that's just because I live here.
Coyotes fans didn't give a crap. Yeah, the Coyotes fans didn't care.
Yeah, but I mean, in certain, like the Austin Matthews one, that would be a one-off because that would have helped that market, right? Like you get this homegrown kid, like that would have been awesome. Or Vegas to get Jason Zucker and have that touch of home. Like here, I think, and it's probably because we are so lucky that we have so many players that are out there doing their thing that we can say, hey, look at this list of Minnesotans. And again, that's a credit. I do believe in Minnesota hockey and community-based hockey. I
don't have to say that. You don't have to say that.
I do love
Judd's Hockey Show does not need you to give that disclaimer. You are sick of the Minnesota angle, and quite frankly, I appreciate it.
And this will be my knock. My knock is on private schools and AAA hockey, because I do believe if you start an association, you play for that association all the way through high school. I think that is incredibly special. I think that's adorable. I love it. Go Zeffs.
Don't ask Judd about private schools.
Yeah, there's only one. Well, no. Here's my thing. Let's go back to one class. Boys, high school hockey.
Figure that out.
Let's go back to one class. You know what? I don't need everyone to have a championship. And hockey is a sport built on the small guy can win or gal can win too, right? Let's go back to one class. You cowards that play in A, I can't stand it. I never will. I don't need trophies. For and there are some schools that play in A that is absolutely inexcusable, but that's beside the point. So my original point though was this: I think the Wild is on the right track. I really like what they're doing. I just don't need and just yes, if they make some small Bill Guerin trade, I'm fine with that. I'm not saying no trades by any means.
Yeah,
but I just don't. I feel like you are positioned now for July 1st really well, and this year has been a pleasant surprise, but I don't need you to get over your skis right now to like try and capture something that's not there yet, especially to AJ's point, when if you love Brock Nelson and you tamper a little bit and he's like, you know what, I'll sign July 1st. I'd far prefer that to a trade that cost you assets that could help you down the road. If you were positioned to win a cup right now, be totally different, but I just don't think at this point you're in that spot.
I think there'd be mutual interest for Brock as well, right? Like I think
if that's your guy, yeah.
If that's No, I agree. And to be clear, I don't want them to make a big splash at deadline. I just think they're going to do something. They'll chip a rock into the pond. I'm not as good at the pond or the analogies as AJ.
Just let AJ go.
They'll do something. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I like it.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, so here's a question as well. So, and Jess, you actually brought this up to me on Saturday night in the press box during the game, and it's a very intriguing thing. Now, Bill Guerin is the U.S. GM for this tournament, so he is going to be probably occupied, but he is going to be around his GM buddies. But as you said, there is no roster freeze. So, in essence, there could be essentially 3 deadlines here because there was a rash of fairly high profile, or not fairly high profile trades. Rantanen gets sent to Carolina in the lead up to this break. Now we're going to have the break where a lot of people can make phone calls without any distractions. Or if you're Guerin, you're basically around guys that run teams. And then there's the actual, I think it's 2:00 Central Time deadline on March the 7th. What do we think about activity? Because, as you said, Bill Guerin likes to make trades. And to go beyond that, this actually creates, in my opinion at least, it creates 3 checkpoints, one's past now, of times that haven't existed previously leading up to a deadline that present a really, really interesting opportunity for deals to be made.
Yeah, I mean, especially like we mentioned, it's the playoff push. Once you get back from this break, every team is kind of all in to make that final push. They're going to do whatever they need to in order to get the players in place. You've got Dallas and Colorado kind of on the cusp of things. And you know what? What better way to find out you're getting traded to Winnipeg than when you're on a beach in Mexico, right? Like, why not?
They deserve it.
Let that be the way that the news is broken.
I'm glad. I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad. No one deserves this. This break is way too long. I will love the first guy that gets his cell phone who comes in half tanked to his hotel room. He forgot his cell phone, and there's 18 messages informing him he's just been traded to some godforsaken town. That's what these guys, this breaks too long. They deserve it. I love this.
I know. But I do imagine the NHL might say, hey, no, let's hold on, because their focus is entirely on Four Nations and promoting and marketing that event, right? So I think from their perspective and their offices, they'll be like, nah, we can wait until after break. But I think you're right. I think a lot of those conversations are being had again. It's very, very interesting. And I think it's because the teams are so different this year, right? You're looking at the Rangers, who have completely bottomed out, Vancouver, who's really struggling, and the teams that have risen to the top, the Wild included. It's been very interesting. So I think a lot of teams are making some of those big drastic moves because they don't know what else to do. Some of their hands are up in the air. Like, we got to try anything to get ourselves back in that position. So I do think you're right. I think that's why we're seeing the high profile trades, and then why those conversations are going to be everlasting. So it wouldn't surprise me if Billy gets a couple more ideas percolating in that old brain of his, especially if he continues to find out where Kaprizov is at in his return, because I do believe that's why I asked that question, is that's your decisions for trade deadline have to revolve a little bit, at least, around when Kirill's going to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was on the 32 Thoughts podcast that Friedman reported that a couple teams, like, I think Vancouver's now like unofficially taken Pettersson off the block. But I also saw
Pettersson, not to be confused with Marcus Pettersson or Elias Pettersson, whatever.
Wow.
There's 3 of them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
They're doing in Vancouver with Pettersson's what Minnesota Wild does with just Minnesotans. But I also saw that he reported, and this is more, I think, like an offhand comment, that it's expected that some guys who left for the Four Nations face-off probably won't return to the team that they left from. Yes. So I think there might be some trades made, like Judd was saying, late in the tournament because they want to keep the focus on the tournament. One that this is just something that threw me off, like a week before this now, the Penguins, who I know have been like shopping guys, pack your bags, Rax. You're like, and I was like, oh my God, did they just trade Rickard Rakell? No, he's just filling in on Finland's like busted team because they have nobody. I thought they traded him and we're like, get your bags packed, buddy. You're out of here. But I would be curious to see what the Minnesota Wild do because Bill Guerin's just going to be around these guys, and he's going to see some of the best players in the world, minus Russia, essentially, playing in front of him. So will he get a better feel of like, this guy's kind of on our radar, this guy maybe, because it's not like every person there is a superstar, if that makes sense. Like, there are some teams where they went the route of, okay, this guy is a fourth line, like a very good like third line guy who's maybe playing a fourth line role. Like who I think Sweden has their top center Zibanejad. Like, is that a top line center for Russia or or USA or Canada any other time? Like, no, probably
you
not.
see that Canadian top power play unit? My
It's insane.
God.
Yeah.
It's
insane.
It's very impressive. It's going to score some goals.
Like, you're putting Connor McDavid on the second line at this point. Like, what?
They unfortunately are going to allow 8 goals per game, and that's going to be their problem.
Yes.
Well, they might score 8, so who knows?
They'll score 9.
You know, in true Jordan Binnington annoying bug fashion, did you hear that he had said who he wants at a halftime Super Bowl would be Drake? He said this immediately following the Drake diss.
I actually saw
a
bunch of Canadian players, because it's Drake, said Drake.
Canadian. Oh, you know, I hadn't even considered that component.
They love Drake.
Interesting. Funny.
So
no, they're not like us.
Yeah. So
they're not like
no, they're not. That's very good.
Thank you.
That's very good. So to go back to this though, you know, when you look at the potential here, I do think, Jess, that you're probably right. I do think that if there are trades, they probably get announced late. I do think that there's going to be moves made here. And that's where I'm curious too about what the teams around the Wild in the standings do as well. Because I do think that they're going to make moves. Now, would that make Bill Guerin think, oh my God, I've got to make a move myself? I don't think so, but I'm not positive. But like, you know, the Avs are coming. Like, the Avs are, what, 2 points back? Dallas is 2 points up. Dallas is...
The playoffs started today. Minnesota would face Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they would not have home ice, which would actually be, in a weird way, a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think the Wild is the Wild now 7 or 8 points clear of the last wild card team.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they're 10 points, I think, clear of being out. So they're in pretty good shape here. But that's my question is, do all these stops and starts in the season allow teams, especially the ones behind the Wild, to assess themselves and potentially try and make trades, either saying, let's try and up our games a bit, like in Colorado's case, or do they bail out? And that's where I don't know. And that's where, for once, at least when it comes to the Wild, I am on the side firmly of I would stand pat. So, like, the Wild's good. I wouldn't bail out. But I think what we're going to see by March 8th is who's decided to bail and who's decided to try to make a run. And then if a team, you know, does Colorado try and bolster more, which I don't know. Like, they've made some weird trades thus far, but that's where I think that this is going to present, because of all of these stops and starts and breaks, it's going to present an interesting opportunity that we ordinarily don't see during a season.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think what Minnesota needs to look at, in particularly when it comes to the standings, is the teams that are above them in the West are the teams that have absolutely annihilated them throughout the course of this season thus far, right? Like, I think you have to figure out how you stop that. Not even just this year, but maybe it's something moving forward into that offseason is like, what are the pieces that we are missing? And if you can add any of that at deadline and help make that playoff push a little bit more reasonable, a little bit more realistic, then sure. But I think in general, you look at Vegas, you look at Edmonton, you look at those games that Minnesota had performed pretty poorly against them, at least here at home. Now, mind you, they had some pretty nice games against those teams on the road. But I think that's what's been kind of concerning about this team as a whole is you have these one-offs. And John Hines does say that they are one-offs, which he's not completely inaccurate, but why are they happening? Like, what? I mean,
right.
7 rip is not.
They're really bad when they do.
Yeah, they're really, really
You're
bad.
Right.
So I think
agree.
You need to address that, and I think the deadline would be good. And I think of course, the other teams are good. You know, like I said, Dallas, I think, is very, very hungry to bolster its roster, even though they're in a good position. I think Colorado, we all know how they are. Wouldn't even surprise me, I suppose, if Winnipeg dips a toe in, right, just so they can maintain their status and do better than they did last year.
Mm-hmm. They will not get past the second round.
Winnipeg?
I have a weird feeling about them. Yeah, they've done any team that chases the regular season, like they're going hard, to me, wears out, and the playoffs are so different. And Connor's a great goaltender. I don't know he's been a great playoff goaltender all the time. I'm just saying, like, if I had to predict right now, I think the Jets go out in the second round.
Which one of their guys is getting hurt at the face-off?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's a whole different thing.
Could
And
you imagine?
I'm just glad that Jules Eriksson sat out on Saturday so he could rush to join Team Sweden in practice, and now he's going to play. And sure as hell, he's going to aggravate his lower body problem, and we're going to have to deal with that with the Wild. That drives me crazy.
Judd just going hard at Hines in the post-game presser, too. Getting the answers that he wants.
I didn't get the answers, though. He tried to defend it. He's like, it's fine. It's like, and everybody's up against it. Well, first of all, I love this tournament idea, okay? Mm-hmm. And I won't belabor this because we discussed it previously, but it's a September tournament. It is a September why are we shutting down your season? And then I don't know if it's who, but you are going to have one or two major players hurt, and it's going to impact the playoffs. And I guess if McKinnon gets hurt, it's bad for the game. It's good for the Wild. Like, I don't wish that on anyone, but the fact is, you're now taking your marquee talent with no break, and yes, the tournament's not long. 3 games apiece, 4th game for each the teams that make the championship. Yep. I get that, okay? But you're already seeing the quotes. I'm playing for my country. No higher honor. I will put my face in front of a slap shot. I will do whatever. You know what's going to happen here. These guys don't have an off button. Like, convince me that if you're a GM, you think this is a great idea. Convince me of that.
Oh, well, you're not going to get that actual quote because Gary's got everybody under lock and key.
Oh, God,
because
yeah.
we got to,
like John Hines.
Yeah.
John was like, I think it's a great, and I mean, John Hines is great. Good guy. I like John Hines.
It's going to be interesting to see what team that's in a playoff race right now that's probably like they're good, but their star or like a top tier guy is going to get hurt, and then they're going to get forced into making a wild Martin Hansel-esque trade just because they feel like they need. I'm sorry to bring that up. I know that's PTSD for a lot of people.
It's perfect. No,
but like they're going to make a move because they feel like, hey, we have to make a move. We lost this guy to a mid-season tournament in February. And now our backs are up against the wall. We have all these expectations. We had the chips in play, and all of a sudden everything's just cast away. So it's going to be hopefully not the Wild who are in that position, but we'll see.
Jessi, no thoughts on this?
I mean,
she's still shocked from the Martin Hansel comment.
It's 3 games.
It's
3 games. Jules Eriksson's hurt though. He needs the
selfishly, I love the tournament too much.
I love the idea.
Best on best. I agree with you. I would prefer to see it in September. I think that would make the preseason a hell of a lot more fun for a lot of people. I mean, you can still have preseason games for guys trying to make the roster, but I love the idea of it in September. And at the end of the day, I mean, they're professionals, right? I think all the guys are probably at least a little cognizant of, like, they're going to be playing NHL games. And if anything, you're going to have Boldy back, who's still in shape. Brock's still back in shape. Like, you got these guys that are working out.
Okay.
Also, to say best on best, given, I understand current events happening in the world, but to not have a Ovechkin Kaprizov like line.
And there's no German team, so you don't have Draisaitl. You keep them out. Well, and the problem is it's not best on best because the other thing is it's an NHL tournament. Every team should be able, the 4 teams should be able to use, like Sweden. If you've got a great player or two in Sweden in their top league right now, that player should be in this tournament.
You know what? I think I'm underselling the Sweden team though too, because the thing about Sweden, all of those guys do play together a ton, like when they're growing up, right? Like those guys have a lot more familiarity with bringing the Canadians together and the Americans together. So
yeah, and that's why they're going to take third because Finland is.
Sweden's chokers, right? The World Juniors they've choked every year.
Yeah.
They can't win. They're the Jets. Great regular season. Oh boy, here we go. Bang. I'm just very worked up because I love the tournament, but I hate the timing, and it's not best on best. And where I'm really gonna blow is next February, the Olympics. Right now, the Russians are out. Belarus is out, which I get it. They're involved in a war. We don't like them. But that being said, don't sell me this. Oh, it's all the greatest players. If the Russians aren't in the Olympics, it ain't the greatest players. Hold on a second here. I'm so upset here that you know what? I need to take a moment to relax, and I need to think of something nice. I need to think of, you know what I need to think of? A great burger, and that comes from my friends at Parlor Bar, the perfect spot to stop before a Wild game. The Parlor Bar is on West 7th Street in St. Paul, right down the street from the X. Open 4 to 10 p.m. Monday and Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. Fantastic brunch as well. Also, for the Wild Games, a special game day menu available 3 hours before the face-off. Ideal spot again to pregame, great for family gatherings, as I've been talking about for quite some time now. The burger is absolutely fantastic, but so is the chicken sandwich. Do not sleep on that Parlor Bar, located down West 7th in St. Paul, just steps from the X. And Jess, you know what? Yeah, it's cold outside right now, but golf season is coming. It's going to be upon us, and that is why Swing Lab is your friend.
The Minnesota Golf Show is coming up in 2 weeks down at the convention center. Yours truly will be there talking hockey and golf. Also, I believe my friends at Swing Lab Performance Center in Lakeville will be there. They've got a really cool thing, you guys, called Taste of the Game. They're introducing that this year at Swing Lab Performance Golf. The biweekly instruction-based workshop is inviting lady golf enthusiasts to interact and learn about the game we all love, with a distinctive twist. With PGA certified instruction, they have programming to meet each player and help them discover clarity, success, and style in their game. Swing Lab is sure to improve your play while making it fun and enjoyable. Ladies will enjoy 2 glasses of wine and instruction per session. Groups of 4 will get a discounted rate. Call 763-453-5892 for more information. Wine and golf, boys. Can't go wrong.
Sounds like a great combination.
Love
2
it.
glasses of wine.
2 glasses of wine. That's what you
Ooh,
get.
so
Swing
some
Lab
red,
Performance
some
Golf.
Chardonnay, some Pinot Grigio. What's the choice?
Floats. I'm a white wine gal, personally, if I
So is
even dabble
Dawn.
wine. Otherwise, I'm not really a wine person in general. I do it because I feel like I have to, when in reality, I would rather have like a High Noon or a seltzer or something.
Wine is pretty good occasionally.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
It's
I'm
like
not
a holiday
big wine
thing
guy.
for me.
It's a
Dawn
bad
loves the
hangover.
wine though.
It's a bad hangover, though.
Yeah. Well, and it's a bad drunk too.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you all, I love
So much
all of
crying.
you. Why are you crying? I don't know. Too much wine is why.
Yeah.
All right, Jessi, we'll start with you on this. 4 Nations. Your thoughts as far as predictions go. First game will involve Canada on Wednesday. The U.S. team plays, I believe it's Finland on Thursday. Your thoughts on the favorite and your thoughts on who do you think like shines here? Like, is there a breakout star? Is it the same old stars?
Like
Your
for
assessment.
all or for like each team? Like I think Jack
Either
Eichel,
one.
I feel like Jack Eichel's
Either
kind of
one.
Mr. America when it comes to this stuff. So I think
Okay.
he might be a guy to really watch. I'm obviously gonna go. I don't know if you guys can see. We're going USA. Woo!
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, you like that? It's a Cade Fairchild game worn.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's very cool. Cade Fairchild.
Very subtle game worn thrown in there.
Game worn. Yeah, got the little fight
The
strap.
strap?
Thing. Yeah.
Oh, you
Love
got the
that
fighting
jersey.
strap? That's beautiful. That's
Thank
awesome,
you.
Jessi.
Thank you. It's from when I interned and somebody was like, "Here, you like the Gophers," and I was like, "Thank you." So they gave
Wow,
that
that's
to me.
not very
Nice.
convincing right there.
I know.
So who?
But
So
it's hard for me
yes.
to go against Team USA. I do. They're the deepest team. I think
Yeah.
losing Quinn Hughes, though, huge blow
Agreed.
to the defense. I think the defense still looks pretty strong, but Quinn Hughes, as we know what he can bring, that's going to be tough. But luckily, you've got the best goaltending, too. So I do think Team USA, not even being biased, is one of the strongest teams. Now, can Canada compete and make up for their lack of goaltending with their insane offensive power? Maybe. So I think those are the 2 teams to beat. I do want to try to give Sweden a little credit because I think they are better than we will expect them. I'm excited to see how Jonas Brodin does with Victor Hedman on that top pairing. I think that's a very interesting combination. Good
Yep.
for him. He's the one that I'm worried about getting injured as well.
Oh, of
He's
course.
the one that I'm a little more nervous about because he's playing in a higher role. See, like Brock Faber, Matt Boldy, they're kind of buried down in their lineups, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing Jonas Brodin play such a high spot is a little concerning. But I'm excited. I'm super excited.
Well, no, I'm don't get me wrong. I'm excited about the
you're
tournament.
not. You're not.
I'm very excited
You
about
think it's just terrible.
No, that's not true.
Judd
I
hates
am-
international hockey.
I do.
Mhm.
I don't like it at
Judd
this
hates
time.
international- He hates America. Is actually what it is.
This is
It kinda
all
feels like.
untrue. It's
He hopes
character
Finland wins.
assassination.
He does.
I'm going to
That's what I
report you both to HR because it's not true. I love the idea. I just think the timing could not be worse, and I think sacrificing The actual season that these guys are playing to me is a problem. But that being said, I am excited. When I saw some of those like Canadian power play, okay? Because at first I was like, their goaltending's not good. And it's not. I don't think it's good. I shouldn't say that. Binnington, we've seen it before, can stand on his head. So I shouldn't immediately say it's not good. I don't think it's that good. But when I saw their firepower, like it did give me second thoughts. Mm-hmm. It did give me second thoughts. The other thing from a goaltending standpoint too is this a situation where in goaltending that you just go chalk? Like, Helly's having a great year. He's going to be great. Or is this a Jim Craig type of brief situation where, like, a perfect example is Binnington. Like, he can go crazy. Like, and I mean that good and bad. He can go crazy, and in his play he can go crazy. So, am I seeing this too simply as far as, you know, if the Canadian goaltending gets hot, that's a damn good team too. But then you've got the pressure on them, and I feel like the pressure in recent years has worn down the Canadian team at times. So I'm very conflicted, but I do think that the U.S. has a hell of a roster.
Can I throw some stats at you?
Go, yeah, of course.
Sidney Crosby, this is his fourth international competition that he has been captain. He has never not won gold when he has been captain of said Team Canada, which includes World Championships, which includes the World Cup of Hockey. Also, Sidney Crosby in the lineup with Team Canada, 25-0. 25-0 with Sidney Crosby in the lineup of international competition. Yep. Fun
oh
facts.
My God.
And I know you said it's not best of best, but they are calling it the best of the best. And the U.S. has not won a best of best competition since the 96 World Cup.
Which was just a bloodbath, you guys.
Yeah, there you go.
They were killed. Bill Guerin.
Yeah.
But they were, that was prison rules back then. This probably won't be that. Age, your thoughts? Well, you know what? It'd be fun, detrimental, but fun if that was the case, but they won't allow them to get away with that much. Age, go ahead.
I'm sticking with Team USA. Since like the initial roster speculations, I just feel like they're the deepest team. That being said, Canada can very easily win it if goalies turn on. The problem is I view them, their NHL comparative is like the Oilers last season. Sure, they can get to the Stanley Cup final. They just, in my mind, they don't have the goaltending. You're going to ask a guy like Jordan, and granted, like Jessi said, it's 3-4 games if you go to the championship. Can he perform on a higher level? Sure, he sure can. Absolutely. But also, I feel like that's asking a lot. We know what he is. Can he turn it on for 4 games in a row? We've seen it in the playoffs. He did it when the Blues won a cup, but I just feel like given he's had games like that this year, he's also had games where it's been the complete opposite. So I don't feel like Canada is going to be a team that, I mean, they're going to probably win most of their games, but I feel like when it comes down to it, the goaltending's probably going to let them down, and they're not going to be able to put up the 9 goals that you mentioned they probably need in order to win a certain big medal game. So I'd say Team USA. Sweden, I think, will probably be respectable, and I just am worried about Finland finding the back of the net.
You're worried about them?
A little bit.
Concerned about the Finns?
A little bit.
I think, didn't I see like their morning skate? They only had like 2 goalies and 11 players there or something today for their practice.
I saw somebody tweet this, and I feel like it was a joke, but I didn't do research to confirm if this is true or not. There's one other active Finnish player in the NHL who was left off the roster because every other person, because people are hurt, has now been called to the Finland roster.
It's like the army. It's like a war. They're just like, you got to go to war.
Yeah. Pack your bags.
Guy.
You're going.
I was going to go to Cancun. You can't go to Cancun. You got to go to war.
Poor guy.
So if there is a weakness on the U.S. roster, what is it? Not goaltending.
I think defense. I think defense. I like that they're deep offensively, but I think without Quinn Hughes, that really does. I love what Zach Werenski has done this year. No shade to Brock Faber, but Quinn Hughes is a tough blow, I think, for them. So that would be my one kind of eyesore.
Yeah, that's probably true, but it's going to be fun. Okay, so let's just get that out there. You guys disparaging, you guys trying to set a narrative that I said I hate this entire thing is very unfair.
We never do that on the show.
I can't wait. I can't wait for
Jessi and I are gonna love it. You're gonna hate every second of it.
I was excited. I'm gonna tell you this.
Putin wants Russia to be a part of it. Things. I mean, geez Louise.
Well,
who you are.
Okay, I'm not even going to get into that. I will say this: I will miss them. I will miss them a lot. Like, it would be great. Like, if you could flip a switch and replace Finland with Russia, now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
Now we're cooking with gas. And the best part, Kirill wouldn't play.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have to be concerned about him because he's already hurt, but he got hurt playing for his team, which I'm okay with. You see how that works? I was going to say, though, the last thing is, I was so excited to start this show that I offered the opportunity to start early. I offered the opportunity because I was so excited to talk about this tournament. And I'm going to tell you, one member of this show unable to start on time, or I guess my new time.
Wasn't on time, for the record.
It was my new time. It was my new time. I corrected myself. Unable to start because he or she, I will not name names, needed to dry their hair. So let's just get that out there right now.
AJ, your hair looks fantastic, by the way. I'm really
I appreciate that.
I was going to say, I'm not throwing it. And both of you look like you could take some time to dry hair. So I'm the only one on this show that looks like a definite air dry person.
No, I have no. You know what? Unless you were going to direct everybody to wear sunglasses so they couldn't see me and I would look fine, like, I couldn't do it.
What would your hair look like if you didn't dry it?
It'd look terrible. I'd look like a wet rat. Like, it's not even like the cute wet. You know, like sometimes there's like
Marchand?
wet. Yeah, like a wet rat. It would not be. It's not a pretty sight. It'd probably freeze too. You know, eventually because it's so cold outside. Like, that's a thing.
Well, no, I'm not saying go outside.
Yeah, but
catch your death, as my mother would say.
This is catch your death.
You're gonna catch your death.
Yeah.
That was a great 60s, 70s phrase. That one, snazzy, like if you dress sharp.
Yeah, I know what snazzy means.
Snazzy.
I would just like everybody in the comments to compliment my hair. Thank you.
Okay, well, go. So, should we have started earlier, or should we have allowed Jessi Pierce to dry her hair, which, by the way, at the end of the day took approximately 45 minutes. That's all I got for you guys. All right. Stay healthy. Stay happy. Don't get hurt playing hockey. We'll see you later.